You're listening to Chem Stories, a podcast series created by people with lived experience of P&P chemsex.
Greetings, Glamazons! This is Captain Patrice welcoming you aboard Chem Stories Airlines for our YUL Solidarity flight. On this first Montreal departure, investigator Olivier introduces experienced flyer Éric. Our flight plan forecasts discussions on his personal journey and perspectives on P&P chemsex in Montreal, the City of Saints, also known by some as the Sin City. We'll be on their way shortly, so please make sure to keep your hearts and minds open at all times. Keep your prejudices securely stowed, as this flight is a judgment-free zone, and prepare for takeoff. Should you experience turbulence while listening to this podcast, please visit our list of resources and services related to P&P chemsex in the episode description and on chemstories.ca. Thank you for choosing Chem Stories Airlines, where the journey is always a trip.
Hi, my name is Olivier Falat. I'm a professor at the School of Public Health at the University of Montreal, and I'm the investigator of this podcast. I'm trying to learn more about chemsex. This is a topic that's been around for many years now in our community. It's highly stigmatized, lots of taboos. So in Chem Stories, we'll be exploring what it is, but we really want to know about it from the perspective of people with lived experience. And today, I'm very happy to have Éric Noël with me. Éric, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you. I don't want to pretend that we don't know each other because we've known each other for many years, and you've been one of the predominant voice on the Montreal scene talking about chemsex in different media and in different form in the community. You have a very strong presence. What is your motivation to kind of do this work or get involved in talking about chemsex?
Yeah, thank you, Olivier. Thank you for having me. I mean, yeah, this is a huge question because I've been for, I don't know, maybe around almost 10 years now. I've been kind of talking about chemsex in different ways. I'm like, first and foremost, I'm an artist, so I write. I'm a playwright, so I wrote theater on chemsex, but I also been pretty vocal on the community scene, doing a project like Ça prend un village or Chem Story, like the French version of Chem Stories, and yeah, this led me to talk a lot about my own experience. So I have like every participant in Chem Stories, I have a chemsex experience, so it led me to talk a lot about it. It's funny because it all started kind of naturally through art for me, through my practice, to my playwriting. Like I just started writing on it, and then it was very natural. I had to kind of write about it and go public and give that to an audience. It was kind of a very instinctive for me to do that. And this kind of led me to I had no choice. Now it was public. Like my story was out there. And I couldn't really hide behind fiction because it was pretty clear that what I was writing was about me. But it was actually a blessing for me, like talking about it publicly and really taking a space, talking about chemsex in the community was really a way for me to recover. It was a really huge part of my recovery. I don't think it's part of everyone's recovery. I really talk for me, but for me, it was really important to voice that out and to use it to maybe help other people recognize themselves in other people's stories. I think for me, like the first time I heard stories about people doing crystal meth or recovering from crystal meth really gave me hope. So I think I wanted to share that in an unconscious way. I think it was pretty centered on my own journey at the beginning. For me, it was really a struggle. Like I know some people do chemsex and don't feel like they're struggling. For me, it was really a struggle. And I wanted to stop and do something else. So at the beginning, when you're trying to really get out of the struggle, I think you don't necessarily think about helping the community. You want to save yourself. But I think that when we save ourselves, we help others also, because feeling better, doing better, caring for ourselves makes us humans that are able after that to do something for others. So I think that was the goal. And now it's very conscious. Now I do it because I want to, yeah, like you said, there's a lot of taboo, a lot of stigma. And it's really hard when you're struggling with crystal meth, or when you're trying to stop using or reduce, or you're trying to deal with all the risk involved with using crystal meth and having chemsex. I think there's a lot of things that are not talked about in our community that we need to talk about. And that's why I decided to do Chem Stories, because I think that's the goal of the podcast, is to talk about these subjects that are not talked a lot in our circles, and I wanted to be part of that.
We're glad you are part of this, and it was so amazing that when we approached you and asked you if you wanted to be a host and help us interview others with lived experience of chemsex, you were very quick to say yes, and we're so happy that you did. What do you think, a project, like this podcast could achieve? What is your hope for this project?
Well, I think the French version of the podcast already achieved a lot. Just to see the number of people who heard like the French podcast was pretty amazing to me.
Yeah. So for people who are listening, there is also a French version of this podcast, which was a bit different, but it's online. So if you understand French or you want to practice your français, go listen to it. There's 26 episodes of individuals sharing. There's 27 episodes, I've been told, and very powerful. And it's had a reach that beyond what we were expecting. We are in the 20,000 downloads of this podcast. And it's amazing to see the response that has had, considering that, there's a lot of podcasts out there, that people have a lot of options to choose from, but people are starving for stories.
This is the sign that people are craving for those stories, and people want to hear that. Yeah, I really believe in storytelling. I really believe we need people to share the stories, to be able to find kind of a path, a way. I think when you are in the crystal meth world or in the chemsex world, it's really easy to like be in a bubble of people that are using and that maybe are having the same problem that you have, maybe are struggling with in the same way you're struggling. But then when you go out, and if you hear things that are said in Chem Story, you're gonna hear, yes, people struggling like you, and maybe they're gonna talk about it, but a bit from the outside. For me, it's a way maybe to reconnect with the world sometimes, because for me, when I was using chemsex, at some point I felt like I was really isolated, even though I was seeing a lot of people, even though I was in what we would call the chemsex community. I had there was people around me, but I felt really alone, and it was difficult to maintain the connection between the people and to really kind of nourish deep connections and friendship while I was using. And so I think that hearing stories of people that are living the chemsex experience in a different way, that are recovering from it, can bring hope and can bring also understanding to not only the people using, but also the community outside. I think when you're in the gay community and the queer community right now, a lot of gay men and queer person and non-binary and trans people, if they're not using crystal meth or using drugs or having chemsex, they're having a relation to it anyway. They're having a perception of it also that can be sometimes negative, and sometimes with a lot of cliches and a lot of taboos and a lot of discrimination also. So I think understanding is the key to have more tolerance. And I also think that because I've talked about chemsex to a lot of people who are not doing it, there's also a big fascination for chemsex, crystal meth use specifically. So people are not using it, but sometimes they're tempted to go use it because they see it a lot around them. They go on Grindr, they see people, they get offered drugs, and some people are thinking, "Oh, should I try this? Should I start doing that?" I'm both scared and also interested in it. And I think the best thing is that people can have the most information possible before, if they decide to go there. Because maybe you would take another decision, but and I think it's for me, all this fascination around crystal meth is also caused by this. There's a kind of romantic view of drugs use, and it's really kind of it's compelling. I know it's interesting. It's like, oh yeah, it's dark, it's secret, it's underground. And I think the queer world, we're really attracted by that. But when you're in it, It's not all wonderful and it's not all great, but it's not all dark. So I think it's important to kind of have a clear view about it. And I think the best way is to hear people talk about it. And I think the podcast, like Chem Stories, especially like the English version we're doing now, we really want to go deep in some of the subject like that I touch now. Really go into the lived experience of people who have had a lot of experience with it, and that can really go in those. And I think in between all the episodes we're going to do and we're doing in Montreal, Toronto, Halifax, we're going to touch like a big variety of experience, and I think everyone can kind of relate to one or another.
You know, you already kind of share a bit about your personal experience right now, but is there anything you want to say about your own journey with chemsex?
Yeah, quickly, what I can say is we're recording this now in 2025, and I started using crystal meth in 2011. So it's been a while, but I used for 8 or 9 years, like until 2019. So it's been now 6 years that I'm not using crystal meth, and I've been sober for all other substances also for almost 5 years now. So I always say that I talk from a place of sobriety and recovery. So this is my path. This is the path I would like to say choose, but I think it's the path I had to take, and it was the one I needed to take. But that I'm choosing every day now to continue on. So I just want to say this is one path. This is not the only one. This is the one that really worked for me. So it was really difficult for me to stop using crystal meth. I started in 2011, and really quickly I told myself that I needed to stop and I wanted to stop. And I struggled for 8 years to stop. Like it was really, I didn't have a long honeymoon with crystal meth, meaning that some people sometimes do it for like they do crystal meth one weekend and then they don't do it for a few weeks, a few months. They do it another time. So they kind of do it in a recreative way for, it could be years like that. And people are kind of okay with it and they don't really want to stop. They're like, it's okay. It's fine with me. I was not like that. I think I felt it was going to become a problem. Like after the first time I used the first weekend, I had a lot of fun, but at the same time, I was already very scared of myself on crystal meth because I felt like, okay, yeah, I had too much fun and this is probably going to become a problem. And I was right. And I was right because like really quickly, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was not a daily user. I never been like daily user, like using every day for long periods of time. I was a weekend user, but the weekends were really becoming longer. and and at some point, yeah, it's not a 2 day weekend. Like we're in it at least for when you do chemsex, you really kind of you're into the 4 days weekend. You make the bridge. Like you want your Friday and your Monday off. And if you could have your Tuesday, that would be great. But yeah, that was my kind of partying. And at some point at the beginning, it was once in a while, but then it quickly became like one weekend on two, and then every weekend. And then it was really problematic. And I was always struggling with work, relationships. I was in a relationship at the time, so it was really difficult. A lot of time I was cheating on my boyfriend, lying. And I think crystal meth just made it worse. I think crystal meth kind of emphasized these kind of defects and these kind of problems with me in my acting out and in my way of not connecting with my values. And I thank crystal meth for that because really quickly it became like a problem. It didn't work. I hit a wall. My boyfriend started like was seeing what was happening, seeing that I was lying to him, and kind of the thing I was trying to protect kind of was not working. And so the relation became really problematic with friends and partners, and my health was not good also. So a lot of things kind of started going down, and so I started to try to stop actively in 2014-15, which was the first time I reached out for help. The first thing I did was I remember answering, there was a call for volunteers for a research study on crystal meth. And I remember this has been important for me because it was the first time I was talking about my using in an outside context and in a kind of official context. And I want to say that because this is important. I think like the first time you talk about it, I was really not talking about my chemsex use to anyone in my friends, nobody knew about it. So this was really important. And then I started writing on it in a play. This was also really important for me. And then I started doing groups like Crystal Meth Anonymous and groups like that really helped me. But it took me a long time. I had a relapse. I started like from 2014-15 to kind of be able to use less often than I was doing. But the thing I realized, even though I was not using, I was obsessed with using. Even though I was
Mm.
not using for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, I was always thinking about what's the next time I can use. And my life was revolving around it anyway. And I was waiting for my boyfriend to go out of town to be able to lie to him and go use, which at some point I realized this is not the person I want to be. And so, yeah, 2019, my relationship, like my 7 years relationship ended. And I had like two relapse really close, like one after the other. And I realized that was because also now I was single and nothing was stopping me. And then I really had a true scare. I said, okay, now if nothing's stopping me, what's gonna happen? Then I'm gonna really go, and I think I'm gonna
Mm.
go full in, and that's the only thing I'm gonna do. And then the rest of my life is gonna go in the gutter. So I decided to kind of start therapy, go to meetings every week, and really start kind of taking my recovery seriously and putting it like priority in my life. And it worked. Yeah, and it worked, and it's been like a long time now, and best decision in my life to stop using crystal meth for me. Yeah, I want to say, but yeah, it allowed me to be able to be there for other people struggling with this addiction, help other people, which is a big part of my life now. But just because that is what keeping me sober. So I do it for other people, but I also maybe first and foremost do it for me,
Mm.
because it reminds me where I come from, and it reminds me that yeah, I need that to stay sober, which is yeah. So it's a big part of my life.
Thanks for sharing that. I think we absolutely need to talk about your play because for people who don't know, well, you mentioned it already. You wrote a play. It's called Ce regard amoureux de garçon altéré. I'm not even gonna attempt to do translation of the title. Oh,
No, but I can. There actually the English text is now like has been translated. So it has been translated by an amazing translator, a non-binary friend named Rhiannon Collette. They're also a playwright, and we translate each other's work. So they translated it as The Loving Gaze of Messed Up Boys. So yeah. So we have an English title, and maybe someday an English production also.
ooh. But it was produced in Montreal in a professional company. It was had great reviews in the press. I had a chance to see it. It was intense. It was poetic. It was raw. It was a bit disturbing at time because it was really in your face. And also it was in a small venues with an amazing performer. Like so it's for people that are listening, it's about one man who's in the sauna for 72 hours and he talked to us about his what's happening to him and the sex that he desire, how we feel, how we experience chemsex, a bit of his distress. Can we say that? How did you came to write this play? Like, I think we need to talk about it.
I kind of had to. It just came out. So I wrote this play like 10 years ago, like even 11 years ago now, while I was using, and I was really at that point using a lot and struggling with my use, and it was around the time also that I was trying to stop. So I was kind of there was something now in my head, like really thinking, okay, I have to do something about this. Like this has become a problem. And so I started to write. I don't know what it was going to be. At the beginning, I didn't know if it was going to be a novel or if I was just writing for myself because it felt really personal. But at some point, there was a festival in Montreal, a small festival called Zone Oma. And the director told me, so we have an opening. Do you have a text? Do you have something you would like to do a public reading of? And I said, yeah, sure. But I had nothing because at this point, I was not writing because I was using so much and I was struggling so much. And so for me, it was kind of a way to, okay, yeah, I have now an opportunity to do something. And so I just wrote a first draft of the play and I read it publicly at this festival. And then 1 year later, I wrote the complete version for the first time at a bigger event called Festival du Jamais Lu in 2015. And so I read it publicly there, what I would call the first version. And I think it was really crazy for me to do that at the time, because it was really the first time I was talking about it publicly. It was like my family, my friends didn't know really what was going on with me at the time. And they all came to see a play where I was basically for an hour and 15 minutes telling them everything. But I don't know, it was like a band-aid. It was a way to for me to kind of just disclose it. Like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it just one time and I'm going to say it to everybody at the same time. It was kind of a way to just go, yeah. So, and of course, it's a fiction. Like, it's inspired by my life, but it's a fiction. Everything that happened in the play is not what happened to me, but it's really inspired a lot by my own journey. And yeah, I think it was really therapeutic for me to write it. But then the good thing that happened is that it took 10 years before the production. And at the beginning, I was really pissed about that because I was impatient and I wanted the play to be produced. And a lot of things happened. And so it took 10 years. And I'm really glad, because in those 10 years, I recovered. And now I could see the play from a different perspective. I think it would have been really difficult for me to have all the media exposure when I was using. At the time, I was struggling with those issues that are in the play. But now, since it took all that time, I was able to kind of be there for the play and for the production in a different way, and which was really great for me. And yeah, thank you for the great words you said. I'm really glad about the production. We're planning to do it again next year in Montreal. And so they're going to have more dates. I'm really happy, mostly because it was really moving to see this small venue packed with people from the community. It's a theater. It's at Théâtre Prospero. So it's in the gay village in Montreal. And so it was really great to see people that don't necessarily go to theater that often, but that came in because they wanted to hear this story. And that's why project like Chem Stories also are important. People, like you said earlier, crave those stories. And we saw it also in the theater. People wanted to hear that and to connect with the story of this character in the play that is struggling, but also not only struggling. Because what I like about this play is that I wrote it while I was using. So it's not recovery Éric that wrote that play. So it's a play about someone that is using, that is enjoying using, that is struggling with using. So it's complex. It's all at the same time. And I don't think I could write it now, because now I'm somewhere else. So I can write other things, but I can't write this play now because I'm not in the same place and I don't think the same way. But I'm really glad this testimony of me while I was using can be heard by people that are maybe using now, because I think they might connect even more with this than what I could say now. So yeah, I'm really glad.
That's very interesting. And obviously, I mentioned it already, it had amazing reviews, but I'm wondering, have you heard anything from the chemsex community, like people who have lived experience of chemsex? How have they reacted to your play? Do you know?
Yeah, a lot of people wrote me, or people that I know from the chemsex community, of course, friends that just came and see it. And there's a lot of reactions. For some people, it's difficult. For some people, it was a difficult moment to experience. But mainly, people were happy to saw the play, but it was difficult in a way that it was challenging and emotional sometimes. So I always say, like, it's not a therapeutic or recovery play. It's a work of art. So it's not like a tool for recovery. So I warned also some people that, for example, people that are just new to recovery and they try to stop using and they have not used for 2 weeks. I was telling them, well, maybe it's not the best time to go see this play because it can be triggering. But yeah, people were telling me that they felt really the connection, and they felt like recognized, and they felt like some things were touched there that they never heard on the theater scene. So that was really great. And I got a lot, of course, I'm more surrounded by people in recovery or trying to recover. So people in recovery really told me a lot that it was reminding themselves of a period of time, and that it was kind of a good reminder of why they decided to stop, and that they were really happy to not be in the same struggle as this person is going through the play. And some people also that are using, like right now, came to see the play. And they told me like it was sometimes for them kind of a punch in the face. And can it be a wake up call? I don't know. I don't pretend that it can do that. But if you can have just heard a story that you connect to it and that you feel like someone has told a story that is partly yours, I think that's very powerful. And so I think even in an unconscious way, I really believe that theater can change our lives. So I think maybe this could be part of something in someone's journey where maybe they're going to look for help or at least talk to people about what they're going through. If this could sparkle a conversation with a friend about your use or about what's going on, because I want to say also it's a play about chemsex, but it's also a play about love and relationship and sex in the gay queer community. A lot of people who haven't used crystal meth saw the play and they were really moved by it because of what it talks about. The character is also going through a heartbreak, so some people really connect with that more than the drug part, and I think we can all connect with this. So it's also about queer relationships, and this was, I think, even more talked about to me than really the drug only, because it's intertwined. I mean, you cannot disconnect the way we have sex and relationships together with the way we use drugs or alcohol in the gay community. This is like intertwined, and people are still struggling, I think, to sometimes separate those two things.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just amazing to see such a complex representation of chemsex on stage because, we don't have a lot of media representation, in general, whether on TV or on film, of chemsex. And when we do, often it's full of cliche, highly stigmatized, not really coming from a queer perspective. So I think having this complex, multi-dimensional play about chemsex, because it's not just about that, it's about anonymous sex on premise, relationship, love,
I mean, chemsex doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's a phenomenon that is in a specific community that appeared at a specific period in our history. So it's in context and it appears in our life also at a moment for a reason. And we are complex individuals. So I think it's important to not isolate it and see it as, oh, chemsex is the problem. I don't think chemsex is a problem. I think chemsex is a reality and it's a practice. And for me, well, and I talk only for myself, but chemsex was a solution to a lot of problems I had and things I had to go through. And it was a way to reveal to me things that were not going well in my life. And so chemsex became an opportunity for me to address those things. And I stand by the fact, and I'm not the only one saying that, I wouldn't change a thing in my path and in my life. I'm glad I did that. I'm also glad I recovered because I had the chance to recover. I mean, some people don't, and some people die from using drugs and doing chemsex. I don't say it's not risky, but yeah, I'm really glad because it gave me all I have today. I needed to go there. I think I don't see how I would have not gone there. Honestly, I think I was really attracted to it, and even though I would have been warned, or this was my path. So, but yeah, I think it's complex, and the reasons why we do it are really complex. So I think we have to portray that, and this is what I did in the play, and this is what Chem Story is doing by giving the voice to so many people and so many different stories. And you touched it, but even the thing is, when we talk about it in the media, for example, of course they're going to interview people, but then they're going to edit, and then they're going to put a title, and sometimes it just reveals, the dark aspect of it, or on the contrary, the recovery aspect of it, and then it's all about like, oh, this person is great because this person recovered. Yeah, but then it's so fast, and sometimes it's so short. Like the articles in the media are really short, and we don't go in deep stories. So the fact that we have now platforms where you can talk about your whole story from different angles, different perspectives, and we can hear a lot of different people sharing about chemsex, this kind of gives a better picture of what it is and what's happening and how we can address this and give the community the resources they need to go through this, I would say, this chemsex moment in our history. Yeah.
Attention all passengers, Captain Patrice speaking. We've reached our cruising altitude. We're now approaching the second and final leg of our YUL Solidarity flight, where investigator Olivier resumes the conversation with Éric as they explore some Montreal-specific aspects of the local PNP community. More compelling stories await. Subscribe to stay updated. If you've encountered turbulence while listening to this podcast, please refer to our list of resources and services related to PNP chemsex in the episode description and on chemstories.ca.